Hello, I'm Priscilla Archangel, and my leadership lesson for you today is doing nothing, the biggest risk. There's a very old story about a wealthy CEO who was going on a long business trip, and in his absence, he decided to give his assets to several of his VPs to manage while he was gone. So first he called in Pat. He gave Pat $50 million and said, Pat, do what you want to with it, but invest it, make me some money. He called in Chris, gave it Chris $20 million, and then he called in Joe and gave Joe $10 million. At the end of this very long business trip, the CEO came back and sat down with each of them to find out what had they done with his money. So first of all, Pat said, I've doubled your money. I now have $100 million for you. That's fantastic, said the CEO. Here comes Chris with doubling her $20 million, and now she had $40 million. And finally, here comes Joe with $10 million, and Joe had only $10 million. Joe had done nothing with it, absolutely nothing. He just kind of really buried it in the ground, didn't even get any interest off of it. Well, you can imagine what the wealthy CEO thought of Joe after that fact. Joe was stuck in a rut. He was more comfortable doing nothing, doing whatever he had already been doing, than taking the energy to really move out of that rut and take a risk. Now, I'm sure Chris and Pat could tell some wonderful stories about what they learned from the risk that they took with their money, as well as what they learned about business strategies. But on the other hand, Joe was comfortable not doing anything. And what he didn't realize was that he wasn't just not making progress, but he was really falling behind. Because when you do nothing, that's what happens. There's a couple of things to remember about risk, and that is to take a good managed risk. Nothing successful happens in this world without taking some risk. You have to take risk to move forward. But also, when you think about taking risk, take a managed risk, which means operating with flexibility, adaptability, expertise, knowledge, learning agility to really learn about what you're doing. But be smart about the risk you take, always take some, and learn from the mistakes that you make in your risk. So my advice to you is don't do nothing. You're only falling behind. Move forward, move out of your rut, take a risk, and do something. Thanks for listening.